Hey, wealth warriors, are you ready to redefine wealth and master your money mindset? Welcome to Women of Wealth. I'm your Gen X host, Holly Woods Gray.
And I'm your millennial host, Ali Ramo.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome Holly Perry. Holly is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Great Vista Education and Technology, a growing organization in the life and health industry. With over 13 years of experience, she is known for building strong teams, streamlining operations, and creating systems that support both compliance and growth.
Holly's career began in healthcare as a licensed social worker, where she worked in hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, and community programs. That background instilled in her a deep commitment to people, which now guides her leadership and business approach.
At Great Vista, Holly focuses on training, development, and operational excellence. She is passionate about helping agents and entrepreneurs succeed while staying true to values of integrity, service, and purpose. Welcome to the podcast, Holly.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get started with you started out as a social worker before co-founding Great Vista. What inspired the career shift into the life and health industry?
Let's see. I worked in the hospital field, in the hospital section of social work. And so I worked on a lot of different floors and a couple things. My father passed away, which he was an insurance agent, a part-time insurance agent. And he wanted me to be a success in the insurance industry. So that played a huge factor in it. And then I also worked on the cancer floor, and I was asked to talk to some family members about a young patient who was terminal, and that just hit me. And I said, you know what? Nope. Let's do something a little bit different. Let's help prior. Let's help these families prepare for stuff. And so it kind of gave me and in that way that I saw what could happen, the devastation. And so I moved into let's be proactive with this. But the biggest impact was when my father passed away. So he wanted me to be a success at it.
So, what kind of insurance was your father in? Was he in life insurance, health insurance?
He was in life insurance. He was in the old school A.O. Williams. Yeah, he was in the old school A.O. Williams. I knew the rule of 72 in fourth grade. He took me to meetings. Him and my mother took me to meetings. I learned sales from that and didn't know I was learning it. I remember going to my fourth grade class and telling my teacher about the rule of 72.
Sounds like my son. Sounds like my son.
So
one time Jackson was at a golf camp, and he was like 5 at the time. He was really small, and he's like, he goes every day, like a new group of kids got to be the leaders. And when he was like the youngest one at the camp. And when it came Jackson's turn, they said, wait a second, guys, I got this. I've watched my mom run 100 meetings.
I love it.
5. So yeah, he's definitely following in the footsteps. Go ahead, Allie.
So Holly, was your undergrad, or did you do some college that was in social work, which is why you were working in social work?
I do. I do have a LBSW, so I'm a licensed Bachelor of Social Work, and I thought that was my calling.
Yeah. So what prevented you, because you had some early exposure as a child? Why didn't you just go into it right away?
You know, because my dad he left the insurance industry, and he was a truck driver by trade. That's what he did. And so he left the insurance industry, and I just never thought of it. And then a friend of mine who actually ended up being my upline in the first company I was with, he got into insurance, and he said, you need to do this. And I was like, no, who wants to do insurance? Who wants to do that? And then all of that just seemed to compound, and it just aligned. And I call it divine intervention. It's what I was meant to do. Absolutely what I was meant to do. And I actually, and I'm trying not to be too heavy in this conversation, but my insurance license was actually issued on the day my dad passed away.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Yeah. So, and he actually passed away with 0 insurance because he bought into the old buy term, invest the difference. and he was sick and he didn't have any kind of insurance when he passed away. So that helped compound too, that I needed to do something, and got into it. And, I'm glad I did. It was rocky at start, but, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So how did you go from, being a producer in the company that you were working with to now running, 4 call centers and now being more on the management organizational side? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
I always knew when I got into it that I was meant for more. I was never considered a salesperson, I guess. I thought, I can't sell. I really can't sell. I was way too social worky, to try to sell. And I let my heart guide me a lot. And sales, I'd let people talk me out of a sale. And I was just not very good at it. And then I got better at it, and I saw that I was making a difference. And I was like, you know what? I'm made for more. And then a series of events was pushing me out of where I was into more of a management role. And I met a mentor that was absolutely fantastic. And he pulled back the curtains and he showed me how insurance worked. And I went, okay, the light bulb came on. I knew what I needed to do. And it was divine intervention, absolutely divine intervention.
So how long do you think it took for you to have that light bulb moment in insurance?
8 years. 8 years. I was an agent for 8 years, and then I knew there was more. And so the way we actually started Great Vista, so I was an insurance producer for about 8 years, and about a little bit before COVID, I guess it was, my business partner, I have a business partner, and he's in Wisconsin. We met at our previous company that we were at that taught me everything I knew about sales and insurance. And, I'm very grateful for that. And I was doing that, and we started actually as an appointment setting service. So if you see my name, sometimes it'll say the appointment firm. And that's what we did, was we set appointments for insurance agents. And for many, many years, for many months, I guess we did that. And then COVID hit, and we had a waiting list of 300 agents that wanted appointments set for them. And COVID hit. Yeah. And then everything went virtual. So getting virtual appointments was a little bit harder. Yeah. So we ended up having people going, hey, that we started mentoring people. They worked for other companies, but we started mentoring people. And they were like, well, you're mentoring us. How about we work with you? I'm like, we don't have an IMO. We ended up finding one. And long story short, that IMO merged with somebody else. It took them 4 months to get people contracted. I had people waiting 3 or 4 months because they liked us. And so they ended up, I went back to my mentor, and he said, hey, let's start an IMO. You can start an IMO with me. Okay. So we did. We got the contracts, and he was very helpful getting everything set up for us and helping us. And kind of the rest is history, but we started out as appointment setting.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that whole COVID experience with insurance, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm like, COVID grew our business so much more because we were insurance was so hesitant to move everything online. And then with, almost 2 years of being shut down, they didn't have a choice. Right. And so, right. Yeah, we had to learn some new things. Fortunately for our company, we were ready to go because we were already getting a bunch of school district employees through appointments that we were creating online. We just turned the volume up quite a bit. So luckily we were okay, but a lot of companies had to make some big shifts. So during that time when you were starting your business and growing it into the organization that it is now, what are some of the biggest lessons or growing pains you learned?
Of course, some of the biggest lessons I learned is trusting the right people. That's huge in this industry. That's huge. And chargebacks are real.
Yeah.
I mean, those are 2 things I really learned, is trusting the right people, and chargebacks are real, because we have definitely had our growing pains through, but we have sustained through thick and thin. I mean, we've lost a lot and we've gained a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So on the topic of gaining more people on your team, as you build a value driven team, what do you look for when bringing people into your organization?
Leadership. That's what I want. Next leaders. I want to be able to move people from the agent side to the leadership side. Finding those leaders it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. Finding the ones that can take you to the next level. And I've learned that the right people will come. The right people, my people are meant to be my people, and they'll come. I don't have to go poach from this one or this one or this one. I think the right people will come to me. And that's, networking and seeing what we are, who I am, and who my business partner is will just attract who we're meant to have. And we've been very blessed to have some wonderful people, wonderful leaders on our team.
So when did you guys make the shift from life insurance to more of the healthcare side?
In 2022, funny story. I told my business partner, my mentor told me about ACA, marketplace insurance, and I was able to see the possibility of residual income. I'm like, man, this is game changer. And he was a little hesitant. He might not admit that now, but he was a little hesitant. I drug him kicking and screaming to Florida to a meeting and said, "You got to come see this. I'm promising you it's going to be worth it." He goes, "If you want to try it, okay, you try it. You just go ahead and do it. We'll see." I said, "Okay." So I got contracted with the carriers, and I wrote 30 applications in a week. And he was like, and then I did it the next week. And he was like, "Okay, and I'm gonna be honest, I was an average agent at best, okay." And he goes, "If you can do this, what can somebody else do that's really just gangbuster?" I'm like, "Okay, you have a point," because I'm half-hearted. So, but I did 30 apps, and 30 apps at however much per month adds up to be a lot of money.
Right.
So we ended up deciding that's what we were going to do. And he saw what I could do, and he went and hired people, and we got business partners, and boom, we were off to the races. And
So what did that transition look like? Did it trickle down to your team also transitioning from life to health as well? Was it smooth? Were there people kicking and screaming for that as well?
Well, once they saw what we could do, they weren't kicking and screaming because they saw the residual income too. They saw that per member per month kind of, and how easy it was back then, because it was very easy back then. It's a little bit more challenging now. It's a little bit more on the regulated Medicare side, and it was regulated then, but not as bad. But once they saw that and we put together a spreadsheet and said, "This is what you can do," boom, people came immediately like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." And they would cross sell. They would sell life insurance and ACA at the same time. I mean, it was just an easy final expense. ACA went hand in hand.
Yeah, we do see that quite a bit, that final expense and Medicare are paired very well.
Well, the ACA isn't always Medicare. That's the Affordable Care Act. So that's actually people that aren't in Medicare yet, right?
Right. That's under 65 healthcare.
Yeah. And then now you guys are making a leap to Medicare, right? So tell us a little bit about that and how that's come to be.
That came to be because it doesn't matter what political side you're on, they're both, the government shutdown right now has really affected the ACA and the extended tax credits. In fact, I went to DC back about 2 weeks ago to lobby for the extended tax credits because they need it. People need it. That came about because of people who are on the marketplace that are making above 400% poverty level. Their premiums are going to double. If you make one person making $62,000 a year, if they make $62,001, their premiums are going to double. And so that's, going from a zero plan or a $200 plan to a $400 and $500 plan, that's a much tougher sale because a lot of people they're expected to see something like 5 million people go without insurance now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so expensive. So we figured right now it's advantageous to go into the Medicare market and then capture some of the ACA that we may be losing, try to get them back when they do a special enrollment, because I feel very confident that they'll come to an agreement and then there'll be a special enrollment. So this way we actually would get the best of both worlds. We get both ACA and Medicare, and hopefully not at the same time like they usually are.
Well, and then you and I have been talking about what's next after that, right? So there's so many opportunities when you have the system built, right? So tell us a little bit about that. Like, it sounds like you're the operations, the system builder, the trainer, and then your business partner has, I'm sure, his strengths as well. So tell us a little bit about how you guys share those responsibilities and how you really identified like the system that works, and then now you just plug the product in.
Okay. Yeah. So we're always on the lookout for what is going to be cohesive to what we're doing now. Just kind of going to marry well with what we're doing now. Whether it be hospital indemnity plans or ICRAs or health marketplace, outside the marketplace. Small groups, healthcare, it marries very well with what we're doing now. We already know. I was gifted with being able to read how insurance policies work. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but it is. It is what it is. I can look at a plan, compare the 2 or 3 plans together versus what they need, and be able to say, hey, this one might be a better fit for you versus this one. Not everybody can do that. I thought everybody could. I thought everybody had that ability. Not true. I got agents that I'm training. This is how you do it. But so we're looking into the future of where to take Great Vista from here, because we want to take Great Vista to huge, huge heights. We want to be a very large company in the near future. And obviously we're going to do that with different avenues, that marry well with what we're doing. We're already doing like a final expense call center. We have the Medicare enrollment centers. We have the ACA enrollment centers. Now we're looking at other options to, have our agents do during the rest of the year when it's not AEP or OEP.
Yeah. So can you just share a little bit about what some of those acronyms mean? Because our listeners might not know. So can you tell them what ICRA means?
ICRA is like a self-directed. The best way I can describe it is an individual who is working for an employer. The employer doesn't want to necessarily pay for like a specific group plan. They allow you to go out. They pay a certain portion to your premiums, and then you go out and pick the plan that you want off the exchange of the marketplace.
Okay. And then I didn't catch the last 2 that you said, but what were those?
Like small group plans.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like, group plans or group plans with, businesses, stuff like that. So yeah. And HIP plans, which are hospital indemnity plans. Sorry. I feel like everybody knows it, but yeah,
we don't. I mean, I do. I know what you're talking about, and Allie probably does, because, we are getting ready to launch the health side of some stuff. So we know, but I know our listeners don't, because like we had an accountant on a couple weeks ago, and it was one of our most well-received podcasts. I had so many people commenting about how good it was and all that kind of stuff. And I had to do the same thing with her, because she started going down, talking about her, all of her talents and everything that she does. And she's giving me all these acronyms. I'm like, Deborah, slow down and tell me what that means.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's all good.
Yeah, so we're doing a variety of things. We're doing the final expense as well. Right now we're in annual, which is AEP, annual enrollment season. OEP is open enrollment season. Medicare has 2 seasons, annual and open, and it goes until the end of March. So we're about to be in the thick of that.
So I have a question, and if you were to look back on how many years have you been in insurance now?
Since 2012, so 13 years.
So of those 13 years, Had you been able to give yourself advice in those 13 years ago, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
That it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to make it. Keep being persistent. Um, God's going to help you get through it. That's my advice is you'll get through it. There'll be times where you're going, oh my gosh, I can't. But you wake up, you do it all over again. And the next day brings blessings, and the next day may bring a valley. You just never know, but just keep going, keep being persistent, and you'll make it. I've learned that it's not an emotional thing. It's just you ride it out. I've had peace for many years now, just kind of just riding it out, taking it each day at a time.
I think it's great advice because, in the insurance industry, especially when you're a producer, I mean, there are peaks and valleys, and the peaks and valleys depend on the individual producer. Obviously, the three of us on this call or on this podcast have figured out a way to create residual income, to create overrides from our teams, and all these different ways that makes the insurance industry a great industry to be in. But I think as an individual producer or somebody coming into the business, like especially on our side when we have 1099 people, is that they can get stuck in one of those valleys and they can't figure out a way to get out. But to keep going, to keep getting out there, to keep talking to people, I mean, it's just a numbers game for the most part. The more people you talk to, the more no's you get, the closer you are to the next yes, right? So I think that's really, really important for us to remember that. As a producer, not necessarily in leadership. Leadership has some different challenges at times, and those are, definitely you and I, Holly, have already talked a little bit about that. So, what are some of those really great pieces that you can give our listeners on some of the habits that you use, as well as, a lot of our listeners want to build their own empire. What leadership advice would you give them to grow their team from grow from a solo producer to a team? What's some advice you can give on that?
You don't know what you don't know, so you got to seek help. And by that, I've had many mentors in my life. Some I know personally, some I don't know. I spend my day in a routine of I wake up. I have, and it varies per individual, but you got to have a routine every morning. The first thing I do is I keep my streak on my Bible app, make sure I read my little verse every morning when I wake up. That's the first thing I do because I want that in my head. I want positive energy in my head first thing. And then I will listen to something that feeds my soul, something that feeds my brain. And, I have to get ready for the day like that. I have to make sure that I'm feeding myself to be a good leader. I've read many, many, many books. I have a daughter who's 23 who wants to be where I'm at, but she doesn't want to do what I've done right now. She wants the instant microwave. I want to be where mom's at right now. She sees me traveling and she wants to, but she can't because she's in a job. And so I said, you got to do what I do. I said, you've got to read. The first thing that changed my life, and whether you are religious or not, I read the book of Proverbs every day. I read a chapter a day of Proverbs. Like today would be chapter 6, tomorrow's chapter 7. And I got to say, it's just good moral living. That changed my life. When I tell you it changed my life, it changed my life. And the funny part about that is I did it for spite. I did it for spite. I had a mentor that told a friend of mine who was a frenemy at the time. He was one of my frenemies. And he came into the organization that I was in, and the mentor started kind of mentoring him. And I'm like, well, wait, why is he doing that? And he told him to read a book called The Richest Man That Ever Lived. And I love that book. And the second page of that book said, you need to read a chapter of Proverbs every day. Well, I heard him tell him that, so I went and bought the book. And then I started noticing him reading the book of Proverbs. Well, he ain't getting a blessing in me and me not. I'm going to get that blessing too. So out of spite, I bought the book, started reading a chapter of Proverbs every day, got to reading it, and it changed my life. I read it every day for 2 years. And during that process is when I saw just astronomical growth. Astronomical growth. And it was so crazy how that happened. And after I read that, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Then I started reading The Power of Positive Thinking, Go for No, John Maxwell's leadership books. I read a bunch of John Maxwell books. So it's just been reading and using them as mentors. I've listened to Steve Harvey on YouTube. You know, his story inspired me. So just lots of reading. And I don't read per se. I listen to Audible. Because I squirrel. I have ADHD a lot, so I'm like squirrel. So I listen to it on Audible.
I'm with you. I have tried reading, and I'm not going to say I can't do it, but I definitely prefer audio.
I like audio for business books, and then I like to personally read for personal books. Like if I'm reading, if I'm on vacation or something like that, I like to read those beach novels, like the different stories and stuff, like love stories, whatever. Too much information.
No, I get those too.
The Richest Man in Babylon. I've listened to that. I've listened to the 17 leadership style, the 17 leadership lessons from Jesus. All of these different books, Go Giver. I was just looking over here at my shelf of all these books that we have that I've read, but I also listen to them. Like right now I'm listening to Disrupt You. This is the second time I've listened to it, because one of the things that I think is going to happen with this new product that we're going to be launching is it's going to be a disruptor product. And so just to get that mindset that Jay Samit talks about, he was one of the original guys that disrupt the music industry, whenever the Apple, what was it called?
The iPod?
No, the iPod. Huh?
Oh, iTunes, iPod.
iTunes, iPod, yeah. Now, before you could get it all on your phone, you had to have two separate devices. I had one of those. I got it in 2004. I remember that. Instead of like having a Walkman, you go to this like little device now that you can just put on your arm while you're running or whatever. So yeah, obviously, in an insurance industry that's so old, it's nice for us to have these disruptive people that are in there. And I look at you and your business partner, Joshua, like you guys have done some great things to do some disrupting, and also you talked about how to stay grounded through what you're doing. So what's next? What's next for Great Vista and the legacy that you want to leave in this industry?
What's next is we just want to keep growing. Whatever kind of comes our way, we don't have it set in stone of what we're going to do, but just kind of whatever fits. We want to be able to pivot if we need to, because that's what we actually have been very blessed to be able to pivot. And when something goes, maybe not, let's pivot this way. And we're very adaptable. He and I both are very adaptable. I think it drives some of the people in our business a little crazy, some of our managers, because we do pivot a lot. They're like, okay, what are we doing this week?
Well, I think there's something to be said about, having an expectation of this is where we're going to be at in 5 years, but to be adaptable and say, I'm not really sure where we're going to be at in 5 years, because the world is changing so rapidly. You don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. So I think it's a superpower to be able to be adaptable now, and people are going to be left behind who are not able to be adaptable, just because things are shifting so quickly.
I thank my mom for that, because as a baby, she never kept me on a schedule.
Well, I think that's a really valid point that we don't talk about very much. It's like, you just look at 3 years ago. We didn't even know what ChatGPT was 3 years ago. Now, I don't think anybody in business hasn't used it. You know what I mean? It's like, we were just talking about something else in between our other podcasts. And it's like, it can make your life so much faster. Now I will caveat to that. Do not use ChatGPT and just post it. Like, read it, make sure it's your voice, make sure it understands you before you just like send it out. And if it has all those dashes in it, trust me, we know it's from ChatGPT. So don't send those to me or to anyone that's listening here. Send it out to somebody that that's back in the just Googling things, not putting it in Chat GPT. All right. So every podcast, we do a lightning round. We talk about the different, we have 5 or 6 different questions. So, I know we love to gab. So 1 to 2, maybe a sentence, but these are not to go off on a tangent. And Allie, before we do that, let's find out how people can contact Holly if they're interested in learning more. So what's the best way to contact you, Holly?
Cell phone, text me, email me, texting. You can text me. You want me to get my number, right? Okay. Yes. 423-341-1297. Texting's the best. I typically don't answer if I don't know the number. So as far as calling, but texting I will answer. Or you can reach me at hperry@greatvistaAgency.com. You can email me.
Awesome. And you'll be able to find that in the show notes, so you don't have to write it down, or if you're listening to us driving, drive safe. All right, Holly, we are going to get into the lightning round. So what's one word to describe your leadership style?
Flexible.
What's your go-to productivity hack?
I use a lot of emails. Chat GPT's now become a new one.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Favorite business book or podcast you recommend?
Business book, I would have to start out with The Richest Man That Ever Lived.
Okay. If you could sit down and have lunch with any woman of wealth, past or present, who would it be?
Oh, Holly, of course.
You're so sweet.
And what's a money myth you wish would go away forever?
That the rich get richer and the poor stay poor.
Ooh, I like that. Well, that is it for our lightning round. Thank you, Holly. You followed the rules and kept it lightning.
Very good. Awesome.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Holly, for being on our podcast. Allie, did you have something else you want to add?
No, thank you so much. It was really great to meet you and get to know you more and hear about Great Vista.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, ladies.